In the heart of Africa lies a country of breathtaking beauty, Rwanda, often called the land of 1,000 hills. But in 1994, these hills bore witness to one of the most horrifying chapters in modern history. In just 100 days, an estimated 800,000 people were systematically murdered. This is the story of the Rwandan genocide, a story of how neighbor turned against neighbor and how the world, for a time, looked away. But it's also a story of incredible resilience, forgiveness, and a nation's struggle to rebuild from the ashes. How did this happen? To understand, we must go back in time. For centuries, Rwanda was home to several groups, primarily the Hutu and the Tutsi. These were not originally rigid ethnic divisions, but more like social or economic classes. A Hutu could become a Tutsi by acquiring cattle, and vice versa. They shared the same language, the same culture, and the same land. But when European colonial powers, first Germany and then Belgium, arrived in the late 19th and early 20th centuries, they brought with them a destructive ideology. Obsessed with classifying people, the Belgians introduced identity cards in 1933, permanently labeling every Rwandan as Hutu, Tutsi, or Twa. They favored the Tutsi minority, who they believed were more European-like, placing them in positions of power and privilege. This policy created deep-seated resentment and division where none had existed so starkly before. The seeds of hatred were sown. When Rwanda gained independence from Belgium in 1962, the power dynamics shifted dramatically. The Hutu majority, long oppressed, took control of the government. This transfer of power was not peaceful. Waves of violence against Tutsis erupted, forcing tens of thousands to flee to neighboring countries like Uganda. In exile, these Tutsi refugees formed a rebel group called the Rwandan Patriotic Front, or RPF. Their goal was to return to their homeland by force if necessary. Back in Rwanda, Hutu extremists within the government began to consolidate power, using state-controlled media, especially radio, to spread venomous propaganda. They portrayed all Tutsis, even women and children, as treacherous cockroaches and enemies of the state, dehumanizing an entire population and priming the nation for violence. The tipping point came on the evening of April 6, 1994. A plane carrying Rwandan President Juvenal Habyarimana, a Hutu, was shot down as it prepared to land in the capital, Kigali. Everyone on board was killed. To this day, it's not definitively known who was responsible, but Hutu extremists immediately blamed the RPF. This was the trigger they had been waiting for. Within hours, roadblocks were set up across Kigali, manned by the Presidential Guard and an extremist Hutu militia known as the Interahamwe. Using lists of Tutsi and moderate Hutu opponents that had been prepared in advance, they began a systematic campaign of slaughter. The speed and brutality of the killing were staggering. The orders were broadcast over the radio. Cut down the tall trees. It was a chilling code for kill the Tutsis. Neighbors turned on neighbors, friends on friends. Machetes, clubs, and other simple weapons were the primary tools of the genocide. People were hunted down in their homes, in schools, and even in churches where they had sought refuge. The international community, reeling from a recent failed intervention in Somalia, was tragically slow to react. A small UN peacekeeping force already in Rwanda, led by Canadian General Romeo Dallaire, was ordered not to intervene. Dallaire desperately pleaded for a stronger mandate and reinforcements, warning that a genocide was unfolding, but his calls went unheeded. The world stood by as the land of 1,000 hills became a landscape of 1,000 graves. While the organized killing machine rampaged through the country, the Rwandan Patriotic Front, the RPF, launched a major offensive from their bases in the north. They fought their way towards the capital, Kigali, battling the genocidal government's forces. For the Tutsis, hiding in fear for their lives, the advance of the RPF was their only hope. Amidst the horror, there were incredible acts of bravery. Many Hutus risked their own lives to hide their Tutsi neighbors. Paul Rusesabagina, a hotel manager in Kigali, famously sheltered over 1,200 people at the Hotel des Mille Collines, a story later dramatized in the film Hotel Rwanda. These acts of courage were flickers of light in an overwhelming darkness, proving that humanity could endure even in the face of unimaginable evil. By mid-July 1994, after 100 days of terror, the RPF had captured Kigali and defeated the Hutu extremist regime. The genocide was finally over. The country was in ruins. The scale of the loss was almost incomprehensible. Nearly 1 million people were dead, and millions more were displaced, creating a massive refugee crisis. The new RPF-led government faced the monumental task of not just rebuilding a shattered country, but also achieving justice and reconciliation. How could a nation ever heal when killers and survivors had to live side by side once again? In the aftermath, Rwanda embarked on a unique and difficult path toward healing. The official justice system was overwhelmed, so the country revived a traditional community court system called Gacaca. In these open-air courts, communities gathered to hear confessions from perpetrators and testimonies from survivors. The aim was not just punishment, but truth, restoration, and a way for villages to collectively process the trauma. It was an imperfect system, but it played a crucial role in bringing a measure of justice and allowing communities to start rebuilding social trust. Simultaneously, the government implemented a strict policy against any form of ethnic division. The old identity cards were abolished. Today, they are all simply Rwandans. 25 years later, Rwanda's transformation is remarkable. Kigali is one of the cleanest and safest capitals in Africa. The economy has grown steadily, and the country is a leader in technology and environmental conservation. But the scars of 1994 remain. Memorials across the country serve as solemn reminders of the genocide, ensuring that the victims are never forgotten and that the lessons of the past are never ignored. Every year, during the Kwibuka, or To Remember period, the nation pauses to mourn and reflect. The story of Rwanda is a powerful testament to the human capacity for both unimaginable evil and extraordinary resilience. It serves as a stark warning about the dangers of hatred, division, and the world's indifference. But it also offers a profound lesson in the power of forgiveness, unity, and the tireless effort required to build a peaceful future from a tragic past. Rwanda's journey is far from over, but its story of rebirth is one that the entire world can learn from. It reminds us that even after the darkest of nights, the sun can and will rise again. Thank you for watching. If you found this story important, please consider liking this video and subscribing for more documentaries that explore our shared history.